Yeah, there is something afoot in the results here yesterday in the primaries is that things have become very, very unpredictable. There's a lot of fluidity. There are a lot of dynamics going on that people like myself, who are brilliant analysts and should know all this, we can't predict anything because you've got new players coming into the picture. We did not know that Christine O'Donnell, for example, in Delaware, would be able to essentially appeal to a big constituency in that state and wipe away Mike Castle, who was a long-standing politician in the nomination for the Senate from Delaware. When you have somebody who is completely outside the norm running and bidding for a place on the ticket, it makes it real hard to predict. And that is what happened yesterday all over the place. And it happened even in New York for the governor's race, where you basically had a guy by the name of Carl Palladino, who came from outside the Republican Party, just trump Rick Lazio, who was a longtime Republican and had served in the Senate and so on, for the governor's race. So my takeaway message is that the primaries have been unpredictable all along. The results have been astounding in some cases, and the November election now is going to be really exciting. The November election is going to be really hard to predict because you now have candidates that we couldn't predict for the primaries actually running for the general election, and the conventional wisdom for these primaries was, well, these people can't win because they're too extreme. The Tea Party is behind a lot of them. They're way outside the public opinion tolerance levels, and so people aren't going to be dumb and vote for them because they'll never win in November. Oops, we turned out to be wrong on that one. So now what we're saying is, well, these people are way too extreme now to win the November election. And so, in some of these cases in Delaware, the Republicans are just not going to be able to win that. And even Karl Rove said that, actually, which is just stunning. But on the other hand, the public this year wants to throw the politicians out of the window, and they're mad as heck and aren't going to take it anymore. And we don't know, how deep that sort of fear, resentment, anger, anxiety, and so on about the economy and healthcare reform and big government and two wars that we will never be able to end, apparently. I mean, Afghanistan now, Petraeus said, we have no idea when we'll be able to pull out of here and end this. This is an endless war. Well, people are just desperate, and they may just vote for unusual candidates, when the mood of the country is like that. So I'm looking towards November as very exciting, and your listeners and all of us are going to be just chewing our nails. The Tea Party is a movement, and it's called the Tea Party, but it's really a movement. And I was just talking to one of my good and smart colleagues who does a lot of great stuff with elections here this morning. And what we're thinking is that the Tea Party has a huge amount of energy, and it's a lot like one of those big forest fires, in California or in Colorado or somewhere. When it's really going, it's hard to stop. But when it's burned through all of the flammable lumber, it pretty much dies off and becomes smoke and is gone. And we think that the Tea Party will probably keep burning through the November election. And then after that, it might peter out and decline because it's too diverse. It isn't really a party. It's really a bunch of mostly very angry Republicans who are mad at everything, including some of the Republican leaders. Now, my own view is that the Tea Party could have a longer shelf life than normal because there is also a huge anti-Obama, fuel that is driving the Tea Party movement and others. They really don't like Obama. They really honestly think that Obama is a danger to the country, that he's a socialist, that he's not a Christian, and that there is something sinister going on, and that can keep a movement, I think, rolling for quite a bit of time. And of course, Obama is up for re-election in 2012, and I'm thinking that this thing will simmer and then flare up again in 2012, and then after 2012, I can't predict further than that. So I think it is a movement. It's not a party. It's mostly a faction within the Republican Party. Of very conservative individuals who have attracted some very conservative independents as well. But I'm not sure they're going to create a third political party, which is one possibility. But my own thinking is that they won't do that. If there is a sweep of a lot of, let's say, Tea Party candidates, and they end up, of course, they would pretty much all be Republicans. So this is a problem for the Republican Party leadership in Congress. And if they end up having a big crop of really unusual individuals, let's say mavericks, a lot of mavericks who ran on the Tea Party ticket and are now going to get elected, two things will happen. One, once you get elected and end up in Washington, D.C., you realize that you got to sit down and get to work. You've got to, go to committee meetings. You've got to find your parking spot. You got to move into your office, and the leadership of the Republican Party in the Senate is going to be helpful to you. And you don't want to really beat up the people who are going to give you the assignments on committees, assuming that, say, the Republicans have a majority in the House, for example, which is fairly likely. So you simmer down a little bit, and you realize that you can yell and scream and throw stuff, but if you can't pass legislation and you can't actually implement an agenda, you're useless, and people are going to get annoyed with you. So even if you are, kind of an unusual, inexperienced politician, and you get elected and you get there to Washington, do you want to continue just burning the house down, or do you want to actually get something done? And my own view is that a lot of these people are going to understand that it's much better for the country, even better for the Republicans and the Tea Party, if they get some things done than if they continue to, throw rocks through the glass houses. So I think if they get elected, there's a good chance the Republicans will take the House. The Senate now is beginning to look like less likely, but the House is a good possibility. If that happens, you will end up having the Republican Party leadership in the Congress having to bend a little bit to these new radicals and try to work with them, but they'll also have to try and tame them and bring them into the fold and make them team players, because you can't win a pennant if everybody's just a star running around and not playing like a team. And politics is a lot like team sports. So I see the Republicans being much more conservative than they've been, but still finding a way to glue everybody together, at least for the 2 years of a House term. Well, you never know what can happen in terms of a rebellion among your troops if you get enough people who are sick and tired of the traditional Republican leadership, let's say, in the House. You could get a revolt. I mean, you could get some of these radicals, let's call them, much more impatient and passionate individuals who might get elected this year, coming into the House and saying, no, we're not just going to re-elect the same leadership that has been here. We are going to elect some of our own. We're going to pick some new leaders, and we're going to change some of the rules. And you could see that. There have been times when the seniority system is undermined, and people jump over the seniority because they've got support among the troops in the party caucus. And so I think it is possible that some of the Republican leaders may find themselves challenged by these young Turks, as they used to be called, who get elected.